On Ray's third week at the daycare, the sink learned to wash its own dishes. No one stood at the counter. Still, something worked the handle, let the water run, and sent plastic cups hopping on the floor. Story 1. Ray was the float. She filled gaps where the day fell apart. Bathroom runs, tantrums, substitute nap songs. The building was a stitched-together warren of classrooms with interior windows so staff could keep eyes on little ones and each other. 2 teachers ran the big rooms. Ray didn't like them and the feeling was apparently mutual. She tried to keep her head down, keep the kids calm, make it to lunchtime without another "Can you cover?" whispered at the door. One room carried a pressure she'd learned to brace for, like walking into the deep end of a pool. Her throat would tighten, a dizziness would tilt the floor and then level out, as if something had glanced at her and then looked away. It all started at nap time. She stacked the cups to dry and turned toward the room. Behind her, the faucet snapped on by itself. A second sound, dishwasher sloshing, came from the prep area around the corner. It made no sense. The only sink she could see was dry. A plastic tumbler slid off the counter and bounced on the tile. After that incident, the daycare began talking. Inside, windows began to tick. One, then another, as if something small and patient moved pane to pane, testing the glass with a claw. The sound wasn't random. It travelled, paused at corners, returned to the centre like it knew where eyes would land. Ray stood in the doorway and held her breath. The room smelled like glue sticks and disinfectant. The fluorescent hum seemed to get louder when the tapping did. She flicked a light switch, a little superstition to reset the world. The taps answered on the opposite window. In the dim hall beyond, a shape crossed the crosspane, taller than the frame, wider than a person. Not a body so much as a cutout where light should be. For one heartbeat, the view was erased. A flat black absence that drank the colour from everything around it. Reflection, she told herself, and started counting ceiling tiles. 7 across, 8 down. Like numbers could explain the way the temperature dipped when it passed. When she finally reached for her hair to tuck it back, a pin was gone. Another had slid halfway free. By the time she clocked out, the base of her skull ached from rubbing the spot where strands had been tugged. Sharp, quick pull she hadn't felt until after. Night made it worse. When she closed her eyes, the darkness didn't stay flat. Knives arranged themselves under her skin. Not cutting, placing, each one with fussy precision. These images weren't hers. They arrived with their own gravity and lodged behind her eyelids. The hopelessness didn't speak. It settled over her ribs, teaching her lungs how little air they needed. She'd turn on the bedside lamp and stare at the door until the room remembered it was just a room. Then she'd turn the light off, and the feeling would wait at the foot of her bed, patient as the tapping on the glass. Other people heard it. That helped, and at the same time, didn't. One co-worker watched a bathroom door stuck open for years, they said, swing shut on a sigh. Another swore things moved in that bathroom while the kids slept. A trash can pivoting, a paper roll unspooling a hand's worth and stopping. A friend said the ceiling spoke in long, low vowels, voices so deep you could feel them. And her little boy, who napped in the toddler room, started waking with hands on his chest as if something sat there, uninvited. The children knew before anyone put words to it. They refused specific rooms without reason. A 2-year-old, hiccuping tears, pointed through a doorway and said, clear as weather, "No, ghost in there." A quiet 5-year-old in Ray's group would snap upright from dead sleep and scream at the ceiling corner, fingers shaking, throat torn raw. Sleep schedule slipped. Ray stopped eating lunch. In staff meetings, her managers ignored complaints. HR called the talk disruptive and separated people who compared notes. One morning, Ray lined her kids at the door for outside time. The other class, the one led by the male teacher, funneled into the same hallway. She looked up to nod, automatic politeness, and saw it. Above his head, not a shadow, not a shape so much as an opening. A black diamond cut into the world, edges too clean, nothing behind it but colour that devoured colours. Where a head should be, a suggestion, almost a beak, almost a mask. Words failed in her mouth and fell out as air. He stared, as if waiting for her to say something she didn't have a name for. Then he moved on, and the blackness went with him like an umbrella no one else could see. Later that week, something cinched her throat from behind. Not hands, more like the air itself pressed its palm there and leaned. It was nap time again when the line finally drew around her. A quiet boy screamed and pointed, eyes on that same corner of the ceiling. The room tightened, air drawing its own breath. Ray felt something at the door, not in the doorway but to the side of it. A presence, pacing. She didn't plan the words. They rose, and she stood, small in the aisle between cots, and spoke to nothing she could see. "My authority isn't mine," she said. "I've been given it. You know from whom." The room changed temperature. It felt for a blink like something large had just decided to leave. The corner unhooked its stare. The boy's finger dropped. The kid slept. It didn't fix the building, but after that event, whatever came for Ray stopped putting its hands in her hair. She'd feel it wait in the hall sometimes, the way you can tell a person is standing outside a door. The music boxes in empty rooms still woke on their own for the opening manager, chiming themselves alive as she walked past. Ray sent the report she'd been drafting to the people who take reports like that. The next call offered a job somewhere else. She took it, walked, did not make a goodbye lap. Later, through the grapevine, she heard the 2 problematic staff were let go, and the school didn't survive a year under new management. New name on the sign, same walls. She thought about driving by with prayers under her breath just in case walls remember. She doesn't go hunting for it, not now, but sometimes she'll pass a place and feel the old pressure touch her throat lightly, a 2-finger warning. Story 2. The first time Jose's bed started to move, he was wide awake, feet on the rug, phone in hand, watching the mattress rock without him. Not violently, just enough to make the headboard move. He put his palm on the frame. It kept going. An ordinary night had led him there. Doom scroll, a couple of articles on lucid dreaming, contacts out, lights half dim. He weighed 185 and knew exactly how the mattress should feel when he lay down. He also knew what it shouldn't do. Continue rocking after he got up. The bedroom was simple. 2 pillows, a low frame, a box of guitar FX pedals stored under the bed for lack of space. Building quiet. No neighbours slamming doors. The kind of stillness that lets you hear your own breathing. He lay back to skim-read a piece on REM cycles and the wake back to bed method. The bed moved. Not a jolt. A slow, seesawing rock. Like someone had their hand on the corner and was testing how far it would go. He stopped moving to make sure it wasn't himself. The motion kept its rhythm. Small, steady, undeniable. He got up to check for an earthquake. The carpet under him was still. The room held its breath, and yet, the bed. The headboard rocked twice, 3 times, with no one touching it. Jose crouched, lifted the bed skirt and looked under. Nothing but the box of pedals, duct tape lid, a thin skin of dust along the floor. No pets, no draft. He pushed the mattress. It pushed back on its own timeline as if whatever started it didn't care about his test. He climbed on the bed. He tried to cancel the motion by moving against it. Forward when it rocked back when it rocked forward. The bed ignored his attempts. He jumped on it. It absorbed the bounce and resumed its quiet tide. He hopped off. It kept going. The clock in his head started counting seconds because the real one on his phone didn't feel trustworthy. 10 minutes feels different when your furniture has its own ideas. He grabbed his phone, thumbed a message to his brother with the kind of forced calm you use when you want to seem rational. My bed is shaking and I'm not on it. He watched the text bubble appear and vanish, appear and vanish. He thought to record it, then didn't, because he was busy trying to make a list of things that could cause this strange phenomenon. Building settling, trucks, pipes. No. The floor was dead still. The night was too quiet. He placed his hand flat on the mattress and felt the motion travel under the foam. He detected a low frequency. He pressed the headboard to the wall. It bowed, then returned to its slow swing. 9 minutes in, his brother asked if he was messing with him. Jose typed back a timestamp and kept watching. Then, without taper, without a last sympathetic sigh, it all stopped. The bed turned into a bed again. 2 nights later, he went looking for a controlled threshold. Wake back to bed. He set an alarm to cut into REM, sat up, read a few paragraphs about dream signs, and lay back down with a plan to catch himself tipping into sleep. He hovered. Not asleep, not awake. In that thin place, something's breath threaded the air. Close. The sound slid across the edge of the mattress like lips over teeth. Jose's eyes opened into a room that wasn't dark enough to hide anything. And the bed answered with a slight, undeniable shake. Not as long this time, not as strong, but there. Awake, he could feel the difference between dream and interference. This was interference. He reached for the lamp and didn't turn it on, because the snarl had come from the kind of distance where a light wouldn't help. He held still until the motion faded. The image that stayed, the first night, standing barefoot on steady carpet while the bed, suddenly its own animal, rocked itself as if listening to a rhythm he couldn't hear. His phone screen glowed in his hand. My bed is shaking, and the little blue timestamp stepped forward, minute by minute, while the headboard shook. And then, nothing. Jose wasn't scared the way movies teach you to be, sprinting, lights on, calling anyone who'd pick up. He was the kind of scared that lives mostly in your mind. He kept telling himself, I was sober. I was awake. I was texting during it. He had dabbled before, curiosity more than conviction, reading about black magic, trying a ritual or two the way a person tries a new diet for a week and then forgets. He'd heard things, seen odd edges move where edges shouldn't, but nothing had put a hand on the world like this and made it move. Story 3. Halfway up the walkway, Caleb glanced at the car. Something pale sat in the driver's seat, watching him through the windshield. He didn't decide to look. His eyes were already there. Caleb had always read rooms a little too well. He could feel when a person dragged sadness behind them or when a hallway didn't want you in it. He told himself that was just sensitivity. Too many antennas, not a haunting. The house was ordinary. Narrow bedroom, a driveway that gathered cold, a backyard that carried sound at dawn. His father rolled his eyes at ghost talk. Most nights, life was chores, homework, lights out. It was early. Blue light thin under the blinds, when fear pressed a flat hand on his sternum. He lay still, face to the wall, counting the weave in the sheet rather than give the room his eyes. The house made its small morning sounds, a duct ticking, the faint hum of the fridge like a held note. The scream arrived like metal torn in half, layered, not a voice, too wide for a throat. It wasn't out in the hallway. It was inside his head. For a second, the room had no depth. It was just brightness and the sound pinning him to the mattress. Then it stopped, and the silence hit with equal weight. His heartbeat felt too loud for the bed. He didn't move. He didn't look. Terror spent his energy like a battery, and sleep took what was left. Years later, his dad requested a simple errand: take the trash out. He dreaded the dark the way some people dread public speaking. Silly, he told himself. He proceeded with the task. The instinct that lives under language screamed, "Turn back." He didn't. He dropped the bag in the bin and started for the porch. Halfway back, he looked because something in him compelled him to do so. The car's driver's seat of his family's vehicle was occupied by a figure with a skin-white face and no features he could hold. Danger poured through him. He couldn't blink, couldn't swallow. The thing didn't move. Didn't have to. Then something inside him snapped and he could move again. He reached the door with keys he didn't remember fishing out, then stood in the kitchen, certain of what he'd seen and unable to describe it in words. The house adjusted, or he did. He'd wake slick with sweat, ears detonating. A bang, like a gunshot. No source, no cracks, no footsteps after. He learned the pattern. The explosion would visit in clusters, then go quiet. After that came the whisper of his name. Usually a woman's voice, just his name, close enough to the ear to raise the hair. He'd sit up, find the room empty, lie down, endure it again. He lost count. The night he heard a man say his name, everything changed. The vowels were the wrong shape. After that, the sense of being hunted didn't wait for the dark. It came in kitchens, hallways, mornings that should have belonged to sunlight. Objects fell as he passed, not thrown, just let go. He heard motion where no one walked. His father sometimes noticed a knocked-over thing and said the shelf was loose. Otherwise, it was Caleb's problem to have and not prove. It should have stayed private, but the camera caught it. He was scrolling the backyard logs when the timeline stuttered and then resumed with a smear. From the far fence, a mass, not fog, not smoke, a grey that ate detail, shouldered across the lawn and drifted to the back doors. It reached the glass, collapsed inward without reflection, and vanished. No person, no animal, just the sense of something. Caleb stared at the screen long after it returned to ordinary. A static patio chair, a dry leaf skittering, the kind of backyard morning footage thousands of cameras make until the cloud storage is full. He saved the clip, watched it again, didn't show his father. There came a night where the pressure stepped into the room. Caleb's name, his exactly, the way a nurse calls you at a clinic, brushed the inside of his ear. He was tired enough to cry and didn't. He didn't light a candle or make a circle or call anyone. He thought of a verse he half remembered. He asked God for help. He didn't speak loud. He didn't need to. The feeling left like a big animal choosing another path. Not defeated, just gone. The corners of the room relaxed. After that, the house behaved. Not perfectly. He still felt something outside certain thresholds, but the theatrics stopped. No ear-splitting bangs. No name in a woman's breath or a man's misfit mouth. Objects kept to their shelves. He told himself it could return. He made a private deal with the dark. I'll notice you, but you can't have my attention for free. He kept the backyard clip not as proof is for arguments, but as a way to say to himself, if I'm crazy, then the camera is too. Story 4. Rowan felt the hairs on his neck lift before he saw it. He turned. and a small black figure sprinted behind the couch toward the front door, silent as a shadow. The house was a simple box stitched into rooms, open kitchen following into living space, bedroom door on the south wall, front door facing east. The couch looked straight at the bedroom. You could slip behind it, 5 feet of walkway, shoe cubbies biting into the wall, but there was nowhere to hide if someone chased you through. Most nights were choreography. Let the dogs out, brushed his teeth, wife climbing into bed, him trailing behind. They were expecting twins. He'd learned to do everything quietly, as if the house itself might wake the babies early. He was halfway to the bathroom, back to the kitchen, shoulders turning, when the room changed temperature by a whisper. The thing was already moving when his eyes caught it. No more than 3 feet tall, black as a shadow where light should be, long ears pricking back, a thin nose knifing forward. Hands like wire, too many joints. It dashed along the thin strip behind the couch and cut toward the front door, as if the door had a seam only it could use. Rowan stood with his mouth open, around a question that didn't have words. Then he lunged after it, shoes skidding the rug, chest high, expecting... what? Claws? A prank? The walkway was empty. The cubbies held shoes. The door was closed. But the feeling didn't leave with the sighting. Mischief sat in the space like a grin. Something watched without needing eyes. He told his wife. She listened the way someone listens who has their own stories and doesn't need convincing. Months climbed a ladder, the twins arrived, 2 bright mouths needing everything. His wife took them to visit her sister one weekend, and the house returned to a former quiet that felt too empty. Rowan sat alone in a low light, one candle burning on the far table, the TV idling with still music at a polite volume. The recliner he'd added to the room angled toward the bedroom doors so he could see it. New fatherhood had peeled back his armor. He started inventorying every weak place in the house. The alertness arrived in a rush. Hair rising, shoulders hot. The body's old alarm saying something is moving that shouldn't. It replayed itself. A sip from light into dark. The outline of those long ears and 2 thin hands. The imp, if that's what this wanted to be, crossed the threshold of the candle's glow and threaded into the bedroom, moving at a speed that felt deliberate. Rowan stood, not a full step, more a brace, and felt the old mix of dread and dare rise together. The presence pressed its face to the night and smiled. He could feel it smile. He'd been here before with other shapes. He'd also been another person then, younger. He felt words gather in his throat. "My authority isn't mine," he said. "Jesus Christ of Nazareth." The room changed posture. The presence stepped back. He saw it once more at the bedroom threshold, a gaunt silhouette, ears like commas, fingers like wire pulled taut. Then it flattened, slick as oil wiped across glass, and slipped into the seam between shadow and doorway. The candle burned without flicker. The recliner creaked once as he sat. It didn't come back like that, not with speed, not with a show. He stopped entertaining the idea of it. No doom-scrolling for imp lore at 2 a.m. When the edge of the room pulled tight some nights, he'd answer without ceremony and go on doing the dishes. He prayed more. Not the bargaining kind, the daily kind. The kind you do because you've decided you want the house to know whose name it's under. He thought about something his family said, half serious, half proud. Scottish blood. A centuries-old curse spoken by a churchman whose words were meant to stick. Curses or not, he asked God to cut whatever thread might trail from then to now. He asked forgiveness for harm that wasn't his, and authority for protection that was. Activity thinned to almost nothing after that. Maybe because he'd changed. Maybe because mercy means what it says. A week later, while checking the quiet like a person checks the stove, he felt a quick, testing nudge at the edge of the bathroom door frame, as if a small fist had tapped to see who answered. Rowan angled the recliner a degree more toward the doorway and said calmly, "Not in this house." Nothing pushed back.